which Big Ten team do you think is going to make it the farthest, and why? Based on the path that they have. And this is all of us just jabbing, right? Because
Yeah.
you can't predict this stuff, but go ahead.
I mean, I'm going to go Purdue because they're a 1 seed, because I actually like their draw. I think, with Utah State, they come from the Mountain West, which is one of the better mid-major conferences in college basketball this year. TCU, very athletic, very battle-tested out of the Big 12. But I do think that neither of those teams really scare Purdue. And then having Gonzaga as the 4 and the 5 with Kansas, Gonzaga, that was a bit of a surprise to see them as high as they were at the 5 spot. McNeese is Will Wade. They've won 30 games, which is, Will Wade was at LSU before. He has rebounded quickly since getting back into the game. Kansas is incredibly injured. Kevin McCullough has been banged up. Hunter Dickinson's banged up. I don't feel like Purdue looks at those. They've already beaten Gonzaga. I think both of those are solid matchups for them with the 4-5. Creighton, very talented offensively. Their depth is not great. Ryan Cochran is a really good defensive center. But if they were to make it out and he gets in foul trouble, man, they just have nobody that can guard Zach Edey. And certainly the biggest challenge to Purdue is going to be Tennessee, a team that they've already beat down in Maui, but it was a really physical game. Tennessee will guard you. Dalton Knecht is a really tough matchup. He's one of the best players in all of college basketball. So, but they only see them in the Elite Eight. And when you get there, you're going to play somebody good. Like, you're not getting to the Elite Eight and playing a bunch of bums. So I do like that their path is what it is. And they certainly have plenty to play for and plenty to prove.
You think Nebraska, Michigan State, Northwestern, Wisconsin, either of those teams make it out of that, first weekend?
Into the second weekend? I think Nebraska is intriguing because Houston is so injured that they are so banged up. Now, they're really tough, and the way that they rebound the basketball is a huge concern. And that's going to be a concern for Nebraska in their first-round game against Texas A&M. I did A&M's NCAA Tournament games last year. Well, not game, because they lost to Penn State by like 40 points. And Penn State struggled to rebound. But Penn State ran great offense, a lot like Nebraska, and shot a lot of threes, much like Nebraska. So I'm a little intrigued if Nebraska can beat Texas A&M to see just what they can do against the banged-up Houston team. Michigan State's kind of a toss-up, I think, against Mississippi State. The Bulldogs really guard you. They're one of the better defensive teams in the country this season. And with Michigan State's issues with consistency, that can be a little bit terrifying. But they did make that run last year in the tournament to the Sweet 16. So maybe Tom Izzo has some March magic up his sleeve. Who else did you mention? Northwestern gets FAU. They're going to have to score because FAU can really score. And certainly with Boo Buie, he's always going to give you a chance. But you do worry, I think, a little bit about just their offensive firepower. You lose Ty Berry. Matthew Nicholson's status is kind of up in the air. So I don't. That's going to be hard. I think FAU Final 14 last year brings everybody back. That would be a really impressive job by Chris Collins, and what's been a really impressive season by him. And then you asked about Wisconsin. James Madison is a tough draw. As we're all Big Ten fans. We know what they did to Michigan State first game of the year. They've had a tremendous season. They shoot the basketball. That's a very trendy upset pick. But I do think the Badgers are playing really well. And I thought that they were playing better to finish the season. I saw them at Purdue on the last day of the regular season. They gave them everything that they wanted. And obviously getting to the final in the Big Ten tournament is a good weekend for them. So I'm not so quick to pick James Madison. I think Wisconsin can win that game and get to the second weekend. But certainly they'll be tested there.
So in summary, you have no idea.
Yeah. That's the beauty of this, though.
I know.
Every year, my friends are like, fill out a bracket for me. And I'm like, my bracket is trash. I filled one out to
almost too informed.
Well, I think also you get biased to who you see. I think when you see teams over and over again, you're like, oh, yeah, they're pretty good. Having really no concept for some of the other teams that you don't see.
The best brackets are the people that really aren't putting that much thought into it, because you got to pick a dark horse. We never know who's going to Like no one would have picked the Purdue upset last year. No one, right?
Other than the FDU fans that are just filling out brackets because for fun.
Yeah, it's so okay. Meghan, let's give you some time here on the women's side. I mean, you talked about how Iowa has a tough road, and part of me is like, all right, if they get through that, then they'll be gravy. But it's like, no, South Carolina, and like it's it just seems like they've got the gauntlet to try to even get back to that championship game.
Yeah, look, on the women's side, you look at South Carolina this season, I just don't know anyone that could beat them. They shoot 40% from three as a team. They've got a 6'8" player in Camelia Cardoso who no one can guard, and she is a huge shot blocker in the paint. They have depth. They have experience. Like there's just, I don't know who can beat them right now. You've seen teams get close, but
and the one Achilles heel that South Carolina had was that they couldn't shoot. Now they can.
And now they can. And like Tahina Pow is wow. Anyways, Fairfield just had them this weekend. They're really good. Carly Thibault-Dodonis was an assistant at Minnesota for years, so she's familiar with Indiana. That could be a really fun matchup. Oklahoma is a team that I'm also been very impressed with. They have a lot of youth, and they just have a lot of depth as well, so that's going to be interesting. If Indiana can stay healthy, they become a really difficult team to beat. Nebraska, A&M. I mean, Nebraska's a team that's playing with a ton of momentum right now, and they have such balance inside and outside. They could really potentially make a run to Sweet 16, but Oregon State and Corvallis is going to be interesting. And that's the thing with these women's tournaments. For those who don't know, the top 4 seeds in each region host at home the first and second round. So huge advantage to hosting. But listen, this is, if you go, somebody asked me last night, South Carolina or the field, I'm taking South Carolina right now, just with how well they've been playing. And that's not by any means going out on a limb, but right now. And then the key to all of this, it's matchups and staying healthy. So if you can do both those things and like have a pretty favorable bracket, then you're in a good spot.